Hey everyone, Julian here, and I wanted to show you how to use Swiper in Divhunt. So the first thing you're going to need to do is install the plugin. Go to your site, hit settings, and then you're going to want to go to the admin panel, which is over here. And once you've done that, just head down to Browse Plugins, and it's right over here. I've already installed it. You just click the button, you're good to go. Now you can go back and open the builder on your project. So once you have that, you are going to need to do a couple things, but the setup is super easy. So first of all, you are going to need to create 3 items. The first one is going from the bottom, the slide itself. The second one is the wrapper, and then the third one is just the swiper over here. So I've named those like this, probably good to do for organization. So now that you have these, what you're going to need to do is go ahead, hit swiper, and then go over here into the content panel, hit transform, and go to swiper. So as we can see, it has already transformed for us. So that is great. Now we have some different settings. So here we don't want one. So what we're going to do is slides per view. Let's just go for 2. Now let's go for 3. So, all right, now that we have that space between, we can change this to whatever we want. Do 10 pixels, 0 pixels, whatever it is that we want. And there are a lot of different settings here. I'm not going to explain every single one, but I'll go over some of the more important ones. So the effect, it's almost always slide. So first let's actually just go ahead and check that out. So if we go over here, what you're going to notice is it's not working. And when you're testing, you're going to need to add this to your URL. What we can see is that it is working already. We have that, but we have some additional options, so let's go ahead and check those out. For example, the one I was just mentioning, which is the effect. So this is preset to slide. What I just showed you, that is how that's going to look. We do have some additional options like fade, cube, flip, cover flow, and creative. So anything except slide, it is going to override slides per view, and it is going to be 1. So that's good, for example, if you have an image slideshow that you want to fade in and fade out, and there's a couple uses for that, but you're mostly going to use slide. So some of these as well, loop is pretty important. It's self-explanatory. If you want it to just keep going, then you're going to use loop. Centered as well is going to just center all of the slides like that. So this is good if it's going all the way out, especially if you're auto playing it. So let's get rid of that. Speaking of which, let's see autoplay. So we can set there the speed in milliseconds, so you wouldn't want it to be 100, but if you did, you could do that. I think a more reasonable one would be, let's say, 5,000. And this is just going to jump every 5 seconds, and you can see that live in the builder. You can see if you want it to stop on the last slide, disable when you're interacting with it. There's a bunch of different options there. Now let's talk about responsive for this. So everything follows a top-down approach, just like the rest of Divhunt. So if I go here and scroll down, we are going to see that our settings still apply. But let's say, for example, we want this to be 2 per view instead, so they're a little bit bigger. We can do that, and that is going to apply all the way down. And we have more than the standard options. We also have landscape tablet, landscape mobile, so kind of quite a few different options there. So on mobile here, let's go ahead and set this to 1, and then we have it looking like this. So just a couple more options that are pretty important. One of which, and let's actually go back to desktop here. There we go. All right, so some of the options we have, swiper, we have enable dots, so that is pretty self-explanatory. Now we have these here, and in this case, it's causing some problems, so let's just go ahead and add a little bit of padding there. 55, there we go. And I don't actually want this to be centered. There we go. All right, so that is one. Now we have dots here, which can be seen, and we also have clickable if you want to be able to click the dots and navigate around, which is pretty standard. I was just trying to do that, as you can see. Then we also have the navigation arrows. So if I find that? Right over here. So what you're going to need to do is make absolutely anything you want. Let's go ahead and all right, so let's just go ahead and create 2 new buttons. And let's actually just put a wrap around these just so I can make it a little bit more reasonable. Let's go ahead and do 100% width, flex, space between. Let's change the text in here. Content would be previous. This would be next. So these buttons look horrible, but not to worry. Oh, sorry, I changed the same button twice. This should be previous, and this should be next. Great. Okay. So now that we have that, what we're going to need to do is apply some classes to this. So let's just go Swiper next. And let's go Swiper prev. You don't need to use these classes. You could use whatever class you want, but that probably makes more sense. Now let's go ahead and select our Swiper again. Go back over here into transform. Next class is Swiper next. Previous class is Swiper prev. And there we go. As you can see now, these buttons are working. Let's go ahead and test it on the live site again too. And there we go. So just like that, without any code, using the Swiper plugin, we now have a perfectly good, perfectly responsive slider with some hideous buttons that you can now customize to look however you want. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. Talk to you soon.